Okay, I think it's 4:30, so I'm going to make a start. Can I welcome everybody that's come along to our webinar on the non-statutory consultation on the merger of Harbour Old Warren House First Base Pupil Referral Units and the Attic Pupil Referral Unit. Gavin, thank you. You've preempted my request for the first slide. Yeah, a very warm welcome to everybody. My name is Adrian Orr. I'm Assistant Director Education and Learning at Suffolk County Council, and the infrastructure of provision sits within my portfolio. So I'm very pleased to be here introducing this consultation event and also being part of the panel that might answer potential questions at the end of the event. I'm going to hand over to colleagues from the Pupil Referral Units who are going to say a little bit more about who's here and the groups that are involved. So shall I go over to you first, Karen?
Thank you, Adrian. Good afternoon. My name is Karen Lodge. I'm Chair of the Attic Pupil Referral Unit. Angela Pinner and Angela is the Chair of the North Lowestoft PRU Partnership Management Committee. We would like to introduce you to the working party who will be overseeing the process of the proposed merger of the North Lowestoft PRU Partnership and the Attic schools, should these proposals be agreed. The working party represents both full management committees and has been given the approval to do that through this process. So I'm going to hand you over to Angela now, who will introduce you to the North Lowestoft PRU Partnership members of the working party.
Thank you, Karen. Good afternoon. My name is Angela Pinner, and as Karen mentioned, I'm Chair of NLPP, North Lowestoft PRU Partnership. It's made up of 3 of our local PRUs, First Base, Harbour and Old Warren House. We have 3 separate schools, but 1 executive head teacher, Paul Morton, and 1 management committee. We formed our single management committee in June 2016. Len Jacklin is our Vice Chair and Chair of Resources, and on this working party, as is Mark Attenborough, who's been with us since we joined. Thank you.
Thank you, Angela. The Attic PRU members of the North Vision Working Party are made up of our head teacher, Joanna Lawrence, who you will meet shortly, myself as Chair of the Management Committee, Dawn Carmen Jones and Mick Lincoln. Can I now pass you over to Jo to give us a little bit more background?
Good afternoon. So before I start the formal presentation and give you a bit more information about what this consultation entails, I would just like to let audience members know how they can ask the panel questions. So if you look at your computer or device that you're looking for, you are looking for a picture of the Q&A button, and Gavin has kindly put a picture on the screen to show you what that looks like. That question will then sit and we will then address them at the end of the formal presentation, and there are colleagues, as Adrian has said, from the local authority or from the North Vision Working Party that will hopefully be able to answer those questions directly. Should we not be able to, we will request that colleagues write as part of the formal consultation process, and you will be responded to via that way, and Adrian will explain a bit more about that at the end of the presentation. Next slide, please. So who are we? Who are the schools that are merging together or proposing to merge together with this URN consultation? So we have North Lowestoft PRU Partnership, which is made up of 3 provisions. Harbour Pupil Referral Unit, which is a primary pupil referral unit focusing on students, a primary and secondary pupil referral unit meeting the needs of children in Key Stage 2 and Key Stage 3. We then have First Base Pupil Referral Unit that offers places for children in Key Stage 1, and then Old Warren House, which is an upper secondary pupil referral unit offering places to students in Key Stage 4. All 3 of those provisions sit very close together in North Lowestoft. Then Attic PRU, of which I am the head teacher of, is a multi-site provision based across North Suffolk. So Attic School is currently offering secondary places in 2 provisions at Walpole and at Hillside Rose East in Bungay. We have the Dragonfly Unit. Now, the Dragonfly Unit is an inpatient child and adolescent unit, and the purpose of the unit is to provide for young people who have acute mental health needs that can't safely be met currently in their local community. So they come in, they're referred in via the NHS, and they are placed in that residential unit and remain with us from anything from 12 weeks up to a number of months. It really depends on that young person and meeting their acute needs before they return to their communities. Finally, we have the single contract for the landing, which is ending in July 2021. So the landing was a small group specialist provision that was commissioned by the local authority to bridge the gap while the bigger capital special schools came in line, and in terms of the communication interaction school is due to open in Bungay in September 2021. So in that provision we offer 18 places to students in Key Stage 2 and Key Stage 3 with autism, and 12 places to students with moderate learning difficulties alongside having social and mental health difficulties. And as I said, they are in our current present position but will not form part of the proposed URN from next September. Next slide, please. So what you can see here is a geographical map that shows the location of where all the provision sits. Now, in general, a lot of our students are referred, about 70% of them, from Lowestoft and its surrounding area. And currently 50 of those students are provided transport out to either Bungay or Walpole. To give you some context to that and that journey that those students sit within, it is 23.5 miles from our most northern PRU there, so from Harbour in Lowestoft to Walpole, and 16.9 miles out to Hillside. So you can see that those young people are in a taxi for upwards of 40 miles a day, and so this is why the URN consultation is looking towards merging and moving nearer to Lowestoft, which Paul will touch upon in a moment. Next slide, please. So why are we proposing this change? And there are a number of reasons for this. So in 2017, our site, the Attic site, that was originally based in Lowestoft on Lovewell Road, was closed, and a temporary premises solution was found in the old Bungay Middle School site. So in February 2018, Attic at Hillside opened as the temporary solution for some of our secondary students. It is planned that that site will be given to the Free School Communication and Interaction School from September 2023 as they expand to being full in their pupil admission numbers, and therefore we will need to find an alternative home. Old Warren House, as I've outlined, offers places to 24 students, and although the provision that they meet there is good, it doesn't provide a big enough space to fully meet the needs of those students and give a wide enough curriculum. So we could really do with the opportunity to be able to remodel it. First Space is currently based in a building that sits on the Ashley Special School site, and if the Ashley had that building back, they can expand their offer potentially for the very much needed specialist places needed for those students. If we were able to bring the First Space places back into our PRU offer and our PRU premises. It is an opportunity for us to use the one capital pot that is available for refurbishment works and potential new buildings in North Suffolk, and it makes sense for us to do this as a joint partnership rather than working in silos of Attic and North Lowestoft PRU partnership. Recently, the Policy Development Panel for Alternative Provision had their paper agreed at Cabinet, which put out a number of recommendations for really rethinking and embracing bespoke way of working with all young people that puts the child at the centre of it. And this opportunity to refurbish and new build future provision and merging together as one URN will really open those opportunities for us to rethink about how we might use our resources and look at our curriculum in a different way. And finally, the high needs funding block has been looked at by the Working Party in Suffolk for quite a period of time now, and it has ended up putting pupil referral units into a banded funded model that for a number of us means that our funding has changed and means that there are ongoing financial pressures if we don't do things differently, and that is true of both schools if we were just to stay in the current situation. Next slide, please. And I hand over to Paul, who's going to talk to you about future plans.
So I'm Paul Morton. I'm the Executive Head Teacher of the North Lowestoft PRU Partnership. I'm going to outline what our proposal is and as we see the benefits of the proposal. So the proposal is that all 4 schools will join into one single unique registration number. So effectively it will be one school. It may be initially on more than one site, but it will be one school going from Key Stage 1 to Key Stage 4. The other 3 schools will merge with that and in many ways effectively close as a legal entity, but there will be one school left. So that one school will expand. The pupil numbers for the school, the new school, will be 102. That will be made up of 90 pupils in the PRU places, the alternative provision places, and the 12 inpatient CAMS places in the Dragonfly Unit that Joe described. The new school will remain the part of the local authority. It will remain a local authority maintained provision. It will not be an academy, so it will be controlled directly from the local authority. It will have one school budget. At present, there is a separate budget for each school, so we'll be able to amalgamate the budgets under the new funding formula and have one management committee. Management committee is the term that is used in PRUs for what mainstream schools call a governing body, and there will be one management committee as opposed to 2 at the moment, which oversee the 4 schools in a different way. The school will have one head teacher, obviously to lead one school, and one central services team, so things like the business manager, secretaries, support staff in that way that will help maintain the running of the school. And in the short term, there will probably be a reduction in the number of sites used. As Joe said, at the present moment in time, there's anything up to 6 sites that are being used, and there was or there will be an opportunity in the future for refurbishment and a new build, either on one of the present sites or somewhere else, so that hopefully in the long term the whole school will be on one site, possibly in slightly different buildings, but on one site and joined together. Next slide, please. So the benefits are that over that period of time, with the amalgamation of the schools, we'll be able to provide a more coherent and efficient service for what are some of the most vulnerable pupils in North Suffolk, and the potential to be able to secure that more balanced curriculum on offer to all students. As some of the provision are quite small, we'd like to offer certain things that just on economies of scale we can't, and ensure that we can offer the widest range of provision that can be very bespoke for individual pupils' needs to cater for them to move them forward, and that be anything from Key Stage 1 all the way through to Key Stage 4. There will hopefully be a reduction in running costs, and that comes in line with the change in funding. The status quo is not tenable on a long-term basis. With the change in the funding to make sure that all PRUs are funded in the same way, some of the PRUs would have to have some quite radical change from where they are at the moment. So if they're going to have radical change, what we hope to do, this proposal will enable that radical change to be the best new service for those pupils in the future for the next 10, 15 years or however long. We'll hopefully have less duplication of effort and effective use of staff. All the staff, the skills that are spread across 4 schools at the moment can be amalgamated into one, and actually that learning from each other and the best practice, it's then put into one establishment, and a more coordinated approach for the communication between schools. At present, you could have one of the high schools that could be have a child in Harbour, in Old Warren House and in the Attic, and have 3 different points of communication, 3 different SENCOs, 3 different heads of schools, 3 different sets of meetings to talk about those pupils, and that can be amalgamated into one, which will make it much better for both the PRUs and the mainstream schools as well. Next slide, please. So one of the proposals or the benefits that Joe spoke of was about hopefully moving those pupils back from Bungay into Lowestoft, where the vast majority of pupils that go to any of the PRUs in North Suffolk reside. Bungay's a lovely place, but it's not very good transport links. It's very difficult for pupils, secondary age pupils, for instance, to use public transport to get there from Lowestoft, and that's something that can hold pupils back as they get to the end of the Key Stage 4 or even in Key Stage 3. They need to be able to develop their independent travel skills as part of that, and if they can't get there, that can be a real problem for them when they're then going to be expected to go on to post-16 provision afterwards. As well as the cost factor that Joe brought in, that those children being taxied, that is a great expense of public money, which could be better spent in other ways within the pupils in the schools. If it can be achieved, we can reduce the travel time. You know, for those pupils that could be going 20 miles, that's a much longer day for them, so that they often get to school in a situation where they're not quite as in a good place to learn as they might be if they had less time to travel, and the travel costs. And all of that will help, means that the service that we can provide for the mainstream schools in terms of transition, both into PRUs and out of PRUs, back into mainstream schools, could be enhanced. Next slide, please. With that, I'm going to hand back over to Adrian Orr. Thank you.
Paul, thank you very much for that, and can I thank Paul and Joe for a very clear description of the rationale behind this proposal, and also Karen and Angela for introducing the colleagues that are part of the working group. So this consultation timeline, it started on Monday. You can see the details on the screen there. This webinar and the Q&A elements that will follow in a moment will be published on the Suffolk County Council website. The final decision making will be late December, early January 2021, and it's worth just saying, because pupil referral units, they're slightly different to schools. Pupil referral units sit as part of the council's statutory responsibility to meet the needs of pupils who, for a variety of reasons, cannot be educated in a mainstream school. And actually, it's within the gift of the council just to make these changes. However, we believe it's right to do a proper consultation on this, and it's why it's called a non-statutory consultation. And we will collect in the feedback that we get between now and the end of the consultation period. We'll come to a view. We'll be discussing it in great detail with colleagues in the management committees and the leadership of both pupil referral units. And if we both sets of provision, and if agreed, this proposal would be implemented in September 2021. If I could have the next slide, please. Thank you. So this sets out how you can respond to the consultation. If you've got a view, if you've got something you want to share, you can do it by letter to the address there, to the school infrastructure team. You can also do it by email to that email address. There's also an online survey. We're trying to make this as straightforward and as easy as possible for people to make a contribution, to share their views, to share their thoughts and ideas about the proposals that have just been discussed. And what we'd need is all of those responses with us by 5 p.m. on the 18th of December. And then, as I described on the previous slide, we'll look at all of that, all of those responses, and that will assist us come to a view about what the next steps are. So if I could have the next slide. This is an opportunity now for people to ask us questions. As Joe said earlier in the presentation, members of the panel, whether it's from North Lowestoft PRU Partnership, Attic or the local authority, we'll do our best to respond to questions, but there might be some questions that need us to go away and prepare a response to. So if they're put in writing to us through the mechanisms I've just spoken about, we'll ensure that people get a response. So at this point, I'm now opening this webinar up to questions, and I think Gavin and Joe, you're going to see what comes up in the questions and then and guide them to members of the panel. Is that okay?
Indeed. So
splendid. Thank you.
Thank you. We've got a representative from Suffolk Parent Carer Network who's put up 3 questions. So I'm going to publish the first one. Specifically, how will this proposal meet the recommendations of the PDP? Which recommendations and how? So I'm happy, Adrian, Paul, to answer specifically 4 of the recommendations I think we've discussed as a working party from the management committee, but I don't know if Adrian or Joy wanted to answer anything before I stepped in.
Well, if you make a start there, and we'll certainly come in, Joe.
So the first one is recommendation 2, which is around local schools and working with local mainstream schools. And as we've indicated currently, very specifically the Attic provision, it makes it very hard for us to work on a daily basis with mainstream schools in terms of transition. We can't be as responsive or as bespoke as we'd like to be because of the transport links. Whereas if they're within our footfall to get to more easily and more quickly, we can respond and be more supportive around that transition process. So that's a big part actually of that recommendation 2. But in addition to that, it's the flexible pathways offer that is in the PDP paper that Radwell Trust are offering as their local offer and their pilot at the moment, is being able to have children who, it's not one size fits all. So it's not a child attends a pupil referral unit for 5 days a week. And it was evidenced through the PDP paper that that first-based model of children feeling part of their main registered mainstream school ensured their placement with us could be even more successful than it is already, and ensure that reintegration back, because I guess we probably should define that a pupil referral unit is designed as a short-term placement to work with young people, and they should only be with us for 1 to 3 terms. In terms of recommendation 3, there was a really clear thing about part-time timetables, and we've talked about the premises across both PRUs in terms of being able to deliver a full, broad and balanced curriculum. And our hopes are that with the work and the capital funding works from Joy Stoddart's team, we will be able to ensure that where a child is able to and can attend that full-time offer, that we will have premises and resource in our footfall to be able to manage that. And then the 4th recommendation talked about renaming alternative provision, and we see this as an opportunity for us to really drive that values and vision and what we want North Suffolk to look like. And I'm then it kind of ties in with a couple of the other questions that have been put up from them, which I'll publish around the co-production. The working party is defined as a working party from the management committee as opposed to the function of a normal working party. So it's so that those managers have delegated responsibility from the management committee to complete the work around these decisions. But absolutely, as we move forward, the management committee and head teachers will be looking wider to pupils and parents and staff to decide what that future vision might look like if this URN consultation goes through. I wasn't sure if anyone else had any other questions to if I read the other 2 published questions, I don't know if you can see them, was what co-production have you done with children and young people and their families about the proposals? What were their views? And if you have not done this yet, why not? And have you got parent and carers on the working group? So I don't know if anyone else had any comments. I'm
happy to put an answer to that. We haven't got parents and carers on the working group, other than if they were in the management committees, if any of those parents are able to be on the management committees, but the working group itself is not made up of any of those. This part of this consultation is about that. We've sent a consultation out to all of the parents of all of the pupils in the PRUs individually to ask for their ideas regarding this consultation. To get their views on that. That's what we've done in relation to that.
I wonder if I might add to that as well, Joe and Paul. I think it's the parental engagement and pupil engagement is hugely important, and I know with the work that you do within the settings, you know, you're talking with young people all of the time. What may be helpful is if we get to a point at the end of the consultation where there is an agreement to look at the, you know, to move this forward from a proposal to a you know, to the formal merger, it would be really great to create some opportunities around the working group for parents and children to be directly involved in some of that. I think the opportunity, there's the potential to build that in.
Thank you. So then the next,
Joe, may I step in there as well?
Yep.
On behalf of the management committees, having parents representatives has been a challenge for both management committees, and we would welcome offers of people who would like to join us, not just around this particular process, but in general terms. So all suggestions would be welcomed from both management committees about that.
okay, are we ready to move on to the next question? So the next question comes from Eleanor O'Dwyer, National Education Union, and it says, I presume there may be a reduction in some roles. How many and how will this be decided? Will there be an equality impact assessment? I'm going to put you on the spot here, Adrian. Did you want to answer that question?
Yeah,
first?
I'm really happy to pick that one up, and it's a really appropriate question, Eleanor. In any arrangement like this, we're making the consultation is about coming to a view about whether to move forward with this proposed merger. If that is the outcome of the consultation, then of course we would have to put together all the appropriate consultations in terms of the implications for staff. We would want to do an equality impact assessment as part of that. Given that there could be the potential for some redundancies, we would be following all of the appropriate measures. At this stage, the consultation is about should we do this, but please rest assured at the point that a decision is made, all of those processes would be in place, and colleagues from the local authority would be working closely with colleagues from all of the provisions to ensure that's done in an appropriate and timely manner.
So there's no more questions, Adrian, in the live event Q&A. So I think unless there were any more, then Gavin, did you want to slide back to the previous slide, please, just to remind colleagues on the call in the audience who so just a reminder that they are your places to have your say. And is there a website, Joy, Gavin, where colleagues can go to get these links?
Yeah, so on the third bullet point there, if you go to www.suffolk.gov.uk/consultations, there'll be a link there to the consultation where you'll be able to find a link to the online survey and also a comment form which can be sent in to the address given at the top there for the letters.
I wonder as well, colleagues, just while people are having a look at that and making a note on it, if I'd just make a sort of general comment. I think whenever a consultation of this nature about fundamentally changing provision, people obviously there's some concern that can occur because people get used to things working in a particular way, and I'd like to make some just general observations, if I may. One is that the provisions that make up the North Lowestoft PRU partnership have a long tradition of supporting some very vulnerable young people across all of the key stages. And similarly, Attic, although it's in a home in Bungay at the moment, Attic has a very long tradition. In fact, Attic's tradition goes back longer than a number of the other provisions, right back to a terraced house on Bridge Road in Alton Broad, when it was a provision for a much smaller number of children. And a consultation like this is not about making a judgment in terms of how provision has been run in the past. It is about how the management committees and the leaders of of all of these provisions have come together, looked at the outcomes of the policy development panel, looked at the broader educational landscape, and are looking at how they might carve out a really effective future for provision for a very, very important group of children and young people. And where people have got thoughts, ideas, worries, concerns about what that might look like, I really would encourage them to put those concerns, those ideas, those thoughts into writing so that we can have a real rich collection of information that helps us make an informed decision. I mean, I don't know if Karen or Angela want to add to that, or indeed Paul or Joe.
Yeah, can I just add something, Adrian? Is that all right? I mean, I fully endorse what you said there, and I'm very proud of the 3 schools I run, as I'm sure Joe is of Attic, and I think they do a good job at the moment. But we would not be considering this if we did not believe that this was actually going to do a better job in the long-term future, the long term. And as I said in my presentation, the status quo isn't tenable anymore for a number of reasons. There needs to be a change, and what we want to do with this is try and make that change definitely for the better. And I think that that goes to that. And as there's only going to be one head teacher, between myself and Joe, we're doing this because we feel quite strongly that it is the best thing for those very vulnerable pupils in North Suffolk that we've been educating for the past number of years. I certainly wouldn't be involved in it unless I thought this was the thing that needed doing.
Just checking if anyone else wanted to come in on that.
Yeah, I would just echo with what Paul said, and we are really, really proud of what we do at Attic and the outcomes that our young people get. And actually, some of the work that we've already started to do in terms of working with our mainstream schools and engaging our local stakeholders and getting the children back into either their mainstream school or moving them into a provision and working with the families into a provision that is right for them. And I wouldn't be putting my name to anything that I didn't fully believe was the right thing for children and their families and the outcomes for the future. And as Paul says, the current situation is not tenable, so we have got to think creatively about how to move forward in a collaborative way.
Can I just come in there and support both Paul and Joe in what they're saying? The current provisions are very good and better in many cases, but as both have said, we have to move forward, and the PDP did give us that opportunity to really look at what was needed for the future to make sure that we can give the very best possible chances for some very, very vulnerable young people in the coming years. Thank you.
Thanks, Karen. Thanks, Paul. Thanks, Joe. Just checking in if anyone wants to add anything else before I formally close the event and encourage people again to make a contribution to the consultation. Just a final check out there if anybody would like to come in.
There's no new questions, Adrian.
No new questions. Okay, so it falls to me to thank, can I thank the people on the panel? Can I particularly thank the school leaders because they're doing this against keeping their provision open in the most complex of times? Can I thank the management committee members for all the work that they have put into this so far? We look forward to receiving consultation responses, and my final thanks would go to those of you that have attended this webinar this evening. Thank you for making time, and we look forward to feeding back in the future the outcome of the consultation. And on that note, I am going to wish everybody a very good evening and thank them. Thank you. Bye bye.